It started with a harmless trip to a yard sale, a chance to find something unique, maybe even valuable. But instead of a treasure, I walked away with something that nearly cost me my peace. And it all began with a single jewelry box. I've always had a knack for finding potential in things others overlook, whether it's properties as a small-time realtor or treasures at weekend yard sales. Yard sales, to me, are a mix of curiosity and strategy. There's something exhilarating about the hunt, sifting through dusty trinkets and forgotten relics, hoping to find that one hidden gem. That Saturday morning, I was especially excited. I'd stumbled across an ad online boasting a huge multi-family yard sale, and the photos promised tables piled high with unique treasures. Armed with coffee and cash, I headed to a neighborhood I hadn't explored before, eager to see what I could uncover. The house was easy to spot, sitting at the end of a quiet street bordered by dense woods. The driveway was crowded with mismatched tables displaying antiques, stacks of old books, and vintage furniture. A few early shoppers wandered through, their arms loaded with small finds. It felt like a collector's paradise, exactly what I'd been hoping for. I parked, grabbed my wallet, and walked toward the tables, ready to start shopping. A wiry man with thinning hair and a stained shirt greeted me as soon as I stepped onto the driveway. His smile stretched too wide, and his voice carried an eager edge as he beckoned me toward a table of old tools. "Got some real gems over here," he said, gesturing with exaggerated enthusiasm. Before I could respond, he was pointing out an antique clock and an assortment of tarnished silverware, as if he'd been waiting specifically for me to show up. Near the porch, a woman sat silently in a weathered chair, sunglasses hiding her expression. The man called her the wife, but she didn't look up when I offered a polite hello. Her hands moved restlessly in her lap, fingers twisting the edge of her sweater. A few other shoppers moved quickly between tables, avoiding eye contact. Toward the back of the tables, half hidden behind an old lamp and a pile of dusty picture frames, I noticed a jewelry box. Its intricate carvings and faded gold trim gave it a vintage charm, the kind of piece that might hold an interesting story. As I reached for it, the man appeared beside me almost instantly, his tone shifting to a sales pitch. "Beautiful, isn't it? Genuine antique. I'll give you a great deal, just for you." His insistence made it harder to refuse. Turning the box in my hands, I spotted faint initials etched into the wood, the lines jagged and uneven as if carved hastily. Near the hinges, a dark stain caught my eye, something that could have been dried blood but seemed more likely to be rust or old paint. I hesitated but nodded. The man's intense gaze followed every movement as I handed over the money and tucked the box under my arm. As I walked toward my car, the crunch of hurried footsteps behind me made me glance over my shoulder. The woman from the porch was standing in the driveway now, her sunglasses gone. Her eyes were swollen and glistening, her lips moving silently as though trying to speak. Before I could process what was happening, the man's sharp voice cut through the stillness. "Come on back, honey," he barked, striding toward her and grabbing her arm with a rough grip. She flinched but didn't resist as he pulled her toward the porch. My stomach churned, uncertainty rooting me in place for a moment. I got into my car and drove off, her tear-streaked face lingering in my rear-view mirror as the house disappeared behind me. At home, I couldn't shake the tension from the yard sale. The jewelry box sat on my table, its delicate carvings now feeling heavier somehow. I opened it carefully, revealing a stack of yellowed papers, folded tightly inside. The handwriting was frantic, words spilling across the pages in desperate loops. They described a woman trapped in a violent marriage, each letter pleading for help. The final note struck me cold. "If you're reading this, I didn't make it. Please tell someone." I stared at the letter, telling myself it had to be some elaborate prank. As I reached for the drawer beneath, a missing person's flyer slipped out. The image stared back at me, unmistakable. It was the woman from the yard sale. Her sunken eyes and trembling hands haunted my mind long after the box was shut. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept racing through every detail. The man's insistent sales pitch, the way his wife's eyes begged for help, the strange urgency in her silence. I finally decided to call the police. I told them everything, from the jewelry box to the flyer, and they promised to investigate. The next morning, I received a call that confirmed my worst fear. The man from the yard sale had been under investigation for months for his wife's disappearance. The police had been tracking him for weeks, but hadn't yet gathered enough evidence. They searched the property and found what they needed. I haven't been able to shake the thought of that woman. What if I had done more? What if I could have helped her sooner? Now, every time I pass a yard sale, I think twice before stepping foot on another driveway. I'm 38, I work a desk job in an office, and most of my days are spent juggling spreadsheets and emails. My free time is simple, mostly errands or taking walks to clear my head. Nothing exciting, really. I was running errands when I spotted a small sign on a street corner. Yard sale today? Everything must go. I should have walked away, but I didn't. Instead, I walked up to the table and the woman running the sale barely glanced up. "Take it," she said, almost too quickly. "It's yours for next to nothing." She lied. It didn't cost me next to nothing. It cost me everything. It was a quiet Sunday morning when I drove through a residential neighborhood, looking for a bit of a distraction. I wasn't expecting much from the yard sale, just old books or maybe some trinkets. But as I scanned the items, my eyes landed on a small, worn suitcase sitting by the curb. It stood out. Unlike the other scattered items, this one was unusually clean, with no sign of wear. It looked like it had been placed there with care, almost deliberately. I wasn't sure why, but I felt drawn to it. The more I looked at the suitcase, the more I wanted to know what was inside. It wasn't the kind of thing you'd usually find at a yard sale. The woman running the sale barely looked up as I approached, her focus more on the cluttered tables than me. She seemed distracted, eyes darting around like she was waiting for someone, though no one else was there. I asked her about the suitcase and she paused, hesitating before replying. "Oh, that old thing? It's been around for years, just gathering dust." Her tone was forced, almost like she was trying to sound too casual. I wasn't convinced by her explanation, but I couldn't shake the curiosity. I asked how much, and she gave me a price that was shockingly low. Almost too low, like she just wanted to get rid of it, quickly. Something about the way she said it stuck with me. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the suitcase than I had initially thought. At home, I opened it, and immediately the musty chemical scent hit me. It wasn't just a typical old suitcase. It felt like something had been sealed inside for a reason. Nestled under the clothes was a stack of medical records, old and yellowed, but carefully organized. The names meant nothing to me, but the neatness of the papers made my stomach tighten. I began flipping through the records and the unease crept in. Most of it was typical medical jargon, but a few words jumped out. Unusual experiments. Undisclosed locations. My curiosity quickly turned to regret. Whatever this was, it wasn't meant for anyone to see. The more I thought about it, the more the suitcase felt completely out of place. Why would anyone sell something like this at a yard sale? The records seemed too personal, too important. I Googled the names listed on the papers, hoping for some clarity. What I found sent a chill down my spine. These weren't just medical records, they were detailed clinical trials from decades ago involving bizarre and questionable procedures. The word disposal appeared repeatedly throughout the documents, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I had uncovered something I shouldn't have. My mind raced. Was this connected to something far darker? Something the woman had wanted to offload without a second thought? I couldn't ignore the thought. The next day, I couldn't shake the urge to return to the house and ask the woman about the suitcase. When I got there, though, the place was completely empty. The yard was bare, no sign of the sale I'd seen just the day before. I knocked on the door, but no one answered. I even walked around the back, hoping to find some clue, but there was nothing. That's when I noticed something strange in the overgrown backyard. A piece of what looked like medical equipment, half buried under the dirt. My stomach churned. I didn't stick around to examine it. I turned and walked back to my car, the feeling of dread settling over me like a weight I couldn't escape. Have you ever experienced any yard sale horrors? What did you do when things went wrong? Share your story in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on post notifications so you never miss the 4 chilling horror stories I upload daily. And remember, share this with your loved ones to keep them safe from the unexpected. Stay alert, stay safe, and keep watching for more terrifying tales.